good evening, but we just need to interrupt this broadcast because we have our first caller.
Rangers isn't just a club, it's a force, a symbol of strength, tradition, and a sheer refusal to bow. We have been dragged through the mud, laughed at, written off, never folded, and now we build ruthless, relentless, unified. You've got the job, Russell. Now bring the steel. No excuses, no passengers, just results.
Okay, well, you literally did fold.
Yeah.
And got recreated.
Well, what do we make of that?
That's the best one I've ever did, mate. 100%. What a fucking response. See, you couldn't script it any better, mate. Honestly, what a response.
Well, you did fold. And you did recreate.
Love it.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. So we're going to be talking about managers tonight on the T.N.F. And welcome along, everybody, to the bus. I know there's been a wee bit of what seems like drama and all that. Where's the bus going? What's happening? Me and Marc will still be here Thursdays. And on the whole, I'll still be doing plenty of content. I mean, in the close season, I'm not going to be busting my balls, but we'll be on as much as we can, and there'll still be plenty on here. And of course, check out Phil's channel, The Boys on the Bus, because he'll be doing more of a schedule that you can probably align your time with a bit better than I'm willing to commit to, or let's be honest, being able to honour. So in that instance, make sure you do check out The Boys on the Bus. I think there's a link in the chat, or there'll be something that Phil puts up. Pat was asking if I'm still alive. I'm very much here, mate. When was the last show? 9 days ago, did the Phil? 9 days? I'm glad you're missing me, though, that much. That's nice to know. That's nice to know. Marc, what's happening, big boy? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, mate. To be honest, it's been probably about 3-4 weeks since the last T.N.F.
It has been, mate.
I think they're probably missing us smelling just you, all right? They're missing
I hope that's the case, mate. I hope that's the case.
It's good that they're going to be keeping going, so it gives them something to look forward to, I suppose, if their life's that bad. No, I'm doing very well, Bhoycie. You know me, working, just keep myself rolling, waiting another few weeks till Celtic starts back up again. But I don't mean you've done a podcast since the season finished, have we? So this could be a wee bit of a season review as well.
We've got quite a lot to get through, mate. We're going to be talking about the Scottish Cup final defeat. We're going to be talking about Celtic season as a whole under Brendan. And I think, just to get it in already, the ridiculous talk of, it might not be working under Brendan or whatever, which I've seen quite a lot of in the aftermath. Maybe the over-emotional immediate aftermath of a final, I grant you. We're going to be talking about the Europa League final, I think, a wee bit. And of course, we'll be delving into the latest new dawn of a new era at Ibrox, because I'm seeing Groundhog Day with this one. It's just the same old shite every fucking year. But we'll see if anyone feels any differently this time around.
Water, sir? Would you like some water, Russell?
Oh, mate, that Carradine son, I'm sure, Carradine son like that, Indisan or son, but I'm sure he got banned by Rangers at one point.
Oh, I think Rodgers had a few words with him before, and so did Ange. I think he's had a few. I think he's a bit of one of the guys that just kind of, I don't know. I think he's a football guy, is he? I think he's not tennis, isn't he? But
yeah, he does a lot of other stuff. So, but it was just weird. I'm sure you had beef with him, and now it's like you're going that far to suck up their ass. Like ever the gentleman. I think he's never met Russell Martin. Now it's ever the gentleman. You're like, shut up.
Do you know something?
Shut up.
I think I said to you earlier on, I don't blame the Rangers fans for being so, vehement about success and how they're the best club on the planet. I don't blame them whatsoever. See if that's a level of journalism that they're used to. How can you expect them to be grounded and unexpected? How can you expect that?
Yeah, I get that, mate.
Because I'd be thinking it's like England pre-World Cup, but the press tell them they're going to win the World Cup, and add these nodding dogs, you know what I mean? And I think that's what's happened with Rangers. And I may have a different take on the new manager than for you, Bhoycie. I think this guy might do well at Rangers, but you're right with a certain element. I think no matter who they appoint, it's the best things as sliced bread, and it's just it's
the gentleman stuff in that. I just find that it's just
what did Ange get?
It's vomit
Ange
material.
Ridiculed, Bhoycie.
Yes, and rightfully so.
Fair enough.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Anyway, we'll do all that good stuff. Give us a like, give us a share, remember, hit the subscribe button. This channel is going nowhere. McLaughlin P says, will my subscription carry over to the new channel? I can't do that, I'm afraid, P. McLaughlin. Well, sure, welcome to be a member on our channel. If you want to put it over to Phil's one when he starts running his channel, then you'll be more than welcome to move your subscription over there. But always welcome on the bus. That's the most important thing. I'll always be welcome on the bus. We'll still have the membership thing there, but it'll be completely optional as always. Remember piesports.com as well. Piesports.com, you get 12.5% off a tasty pastry treat when you use the code BUS1888. Don't ask me if that code will work on for Phil's as well. If he's got another code for Pie Sports, I don't know. But no, very exciting times for both of us, because it's nice to see. And I want your take on it, Marc, before we get stuck in, because you'll watch the bus stop episode last week, and I'm sure Phil will be looking to use you on his new channel, and I'm sure you're excited to be doing that.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. Something a bit different, I suppose.
Good.
I think there's a few different shows, you know, kind of leading to what we did before with the bus, the first couple of years, when there was so much to talk about, so much new things, and it just kind of faded away for obvious reasons. And but a wee twist to it, you know what I mean? Looking forward to that, to be honest with you. But to be quite honest with you, I'm more looking forward to our Thursday night show more than anything else, to be honest. That's probably my kind of like my favourite show today since I've been doing the podcast. I really enjoy that. No, it's the truth. I'm not going to lie to you.
That's really kind.
I know, it's all right, mate. I say one I like. I feel like it's probably it's like the match of the day of the pod. I think it's one of the ones where you can enjoy watching if you're watching it all. Not that it's better than any other pod, any other show we do. I just think it's the most enjoyable one today.
We've got the hang of it by now, haven't we?
We've
got the hang of it. I think we've sussed it.
Well, especially since we've done it all. We've done the Mondays, we've done the Tuesdays, we've done all the different wee shows and different wee gimmicks. We've done it all, you know what I mean? And
this one's had the longevity. Yeah, this one's
kept the same.
That's very true.
Aye. Even before when it was David and me, and sometimes me and you, and David and you, and the Thursday Night Forum's kind of been only one that's been, well, that post-match has been straight in the line, you know?
Yeah, the post-match one was just killing me by then, man. I'm just like, you're going.
I just got to say, I did watch the last one, and just very quickly, I'll just echo what you said, because I think anybody that's watched a couple of previous pods might think that there's been some sort of fallout, and we've all kind of just took our ball and ran home with it and created a new pod. I think it's just fair for me to echo that. It's just a case of we've all kind of moved over to different jobs now and different kind of stages in life, and it's easier now just to keep the pod a bit ad hoc, like we're doing just now.
Yeah.
And then Phil carry on with the more, scheduled format.
Yeah.
I just wanted to echo what you say. Nobody's fair with each other. Nobody. No. Well, we follow each other probably most days. We're all Celtic fans and we all have different opinions, but nothing's happened that, just in case I think folk might think that, you know what I mean, watching some of the recent pods that were chummed out, you know.
Yeah, P. McLaughlin comes in. Again, I don't want to dwell on podcast shit and all that too long, by the way. So it's just to clarify a couple things. I don't know if it got lost in the wash. I thought the episode me and Phil did had been pretty clear, but with the jargon I talk, it probably wasn't. There's no folding of this channel whatsoever. This channel's not finishing. This channel's going to carry on its own guise, which will be more unpredictable in terms of when it'll be live, with the majority of the team that we've sort of built in the bus moving with Phil over to his, because they've all got busy lives as well. So a schedule works for them as well. And I respect that, by the way. And it means they know when they're going to be on. Terry knows, right, after the game, I'm still going to be on each time. Bhoycie's not going to message me on the Saturday morning saying he can't make it for whatever reason. You've got Liam who sticks these Friday night stuff like that. And it gives me then that freedom. I can go on when the fuck I want. Do you know what I mean? And to be honest with you, that suits me fine. That's how I want to be. And with fewer people maybe in my team, they'll need to adopt. Obviously, with yourself, Matt, we'll still do Thursdays. You've managed to fucking get under the radar somehow. Just because that compliment there, I've changed my mind. But like, I'm gonna have, as I said, a guy called Joe joining us. Conor will still be welcome to do his carpool on the bus and things like that, because he can do that. Conor's kind of an example as to where the channel's been going. with the Carpool just pops up randomly. I love that. I think that's the best way for me to be. So the bus is going nowhere. We'll just be a wee bit more unpredictable in our scheduling for the scheduled, the sort of structured, sort of I know when he's going to be live. Go to Phil. he will sort you out, and Phil's done a grand job to get there, but I've said all that shit before, so I don't want to go too cheesy, man.
No.
Right, okay, let's get stuck into it. Marc, we lost the Scottish Cup final, so I'm sure people have been itching to get your views. I think we've seen a team, Marc, for me personally, I know I kind of did the pod with Terry, it was a lot of it's get lost in translation, no offence, Terry, but I was trying to make the point that I watched the hungriest version of Celtic 10 days before that final at Bustalgia. 10 days before it. Yes, there was a lot of rotation, but that rotation showed what their squad is made of. What you would see if we'd won the final with the same sort of attitude, but like the regular first teamers in it, we'd have said that's how the mindset of the whole club is. That's how we fucking roll as a team, as a football club now. Everyone's got the same mindset. There's no ever. Postecoglou said relentless, then we're still relentless now, all this shit. What we ended up fucking watching, though, was a team that I think thought the job was done at 1-0. Aberdeen didn't throw a glove, let alone lay one, right? And I think Celtic thought there's nothing coming back at us, and they took their foot off the gas. Where my confusion is, and this is really where I want to get a good chat with you about it, is because when I look at the magnitude of a cup final, and I look at the magnitude of away to Aberdeen when the league's already won, I can't understand for the life of me why going 2, 3, 4 goals clear at Bustalgia was the be-all, end-all, and yet 1 goal was enough in a cup final. When the saying 1 goal's never enough, and yet there was this relaxed, I think, verging on complacent. I think based on what they were watching as well for Aberdeen, who are utter dug meat, by the way, and so were we, yeah, and we were. But Celtic could have went through the gears. Celtic could have shown 3 things: attitude, application, urgency. That is what was missing from us in terms of our performance. Aberdeen looked like a team bereft of quality. Now, I can't fathom, Marc, why we decided at the stage of 1-0, and I do think it was a conscious decision amongst the team. We've got the job done here. What do you think brought all that on? Or do you even agree with my theory on it?
No, I think it's been coming. I think there's been a lethargy within the team for a while, you know what I mean? I don't think you could just switch it on and turn it back half again and vice versa. I think when it settles into a team, and I think the roots start back to go all the way back to the January window. I think like the club gave up on the season. I think the players thought the season was finished as well. And all right, we were getting the odd moments for the players, and we're getting the odd good result, but the football was getting a bit turgid, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like a team who knew that the season was finished and they were just playing it out. And then, lo and behold, we come to Celtic Park against Rangers, and we can't just switch it back on again. We come to Ibrox, and we should have won the match, but there was spells in that match were like dodgy as well. And then lo and behold, again, they go to Hampden. Right, okay, let's switch it on. Let's get this cup final finished, a treble one. And you go, nobody's got the oomph, nobody's got the spark. And I think Aberdeen put one hand on that trophy when that guy kicked Rio Hatate at Bustalgia, because it seems to just knock any spark out of Celtic whatsoever in the St Mirren game and the cup final. There was no creative spark in midfield. I think the season's been, I think we've had a funny season with players on form individually rather than the team collectively, and I think it kind of showed that Maeda couldn't carry us for certain periods, and I think Hatate in the last few months kind of carried that can when he was creating a lot for the team, and I just think it all kind of fell apart. You know, like there was nobody in midfield that could create, and there was nobody after a long season like Maeda that could finish the game off for Celtic. I think it all just played into the game that we watched, Bhoycie, where there was a lethargy, there was an approach like maybe we think the treble's already won. It's just a case of coming out here and winning it. And I think the first goal Celtic's only goal, rather, which is an OG. It came from nowhere, really, although with possession, loads of it. It came from nowhere, but rather than it sparking the team and take them to level 2, level 3, or gear 2, like gear 3, they just kind of like kept that kind of mediocre, like, I don't know, like pre-season vibe about it, you know what I mean? And I think you didn't see that for Celtic in August, and I can't understand why we saw it in May. And the only way you can think about it in rationale and make it make sense in your head is that the Celtic players for far too long had this season wrapped up, and when it came to the crunch and when it came to the matter, they found out, which we all know in football now, you can't just switch it back on again, Bhoycie. It was just one game too much, and it was maybe just one season too much for Ange Postecoglou's Celtic team that he built to just motor through and just get this treble. And it sounds harsh considering we only lost it in penalty kicks, but we all seen some of this coming, Bhoycie. And I think when you've got a team that was built 4 or 5 seasons ago, and the club just tried to put a wee bit of life into it, you know, just instead of letting it die and rebuilding, eventually you come to a stage where everybody knows the party's over. And for some players at Celtic it is, but I think that cup final just summed up, you know, what's going on at Celtic just now in terms of we should do better. We did enough, but at the end of the game, Celtic just didn't put the effort in, and I think that transcends after the part when it comes into player recruitment and the board's attitude towards building a team.
Well, it's interesting that there's a sort of insinuation there. What you're saying is that you still feel Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, not Brendan Rodgers' Celtic side. That's clearly what the sort of behind that is what you're saying, which is interesting. I think my honest theory is, whilst Postecoglou may have got many of the signings, Postecoglou came to Celtic when I think there was maybe 2 first-teamers still left. So therefore, the rebuild he did was always going to be far bigger than most managers would at Celtic. When you sign players, I would like to think they'll be there fucking 4 or 5 years. Too often it feels for us in the Mickey Mouse Scottish League, that was inverted commas for those listening on Spotify. It's only a year that they last, you know. And I do think Rodgers has made some of these players better as well. I think, and Dies and Maeda, just as a prime example. I like to push you on where you think the attitude difference is with Petodry to the cup final. Now, the reason I'm so adamant about this one is it's the same team that we're playing. One game has 0 magnitude to it because the league's already in the bag, albeit Petodry away. You've took our away support. You've got obviously standards to uphold and things like this. But that hunger at 4 to make it 5, that hunger at 3 goals to make it 4. But finally, you don't have that same hunger to make it 1 to 2. You don't get it, mate. And do you think it genuinely does come down to the fact that the second string were more hungry?
Yep.
Than the first? Is that what I don't get that, because what I want to see it is it being, this is the symbol of what we're all about as a club. Doesn't matter who comes in, we all have the same mindset.
No, you're definitely right there. You know what I mean? And I think we've heard before ex-players speaking about how when you get a youth player coming in, the shackles are off and they're hungry and they want to impress. And then a season or 2, they start to lose that kind of like that inhibitions of course. They start to feel like they can't express themselves too much. They've got to play this system. And I think that's what happens in football as well, boys. So you've got players coming in who they've got a lot to prove at Celtic when they're not getting a game. So they've come in with a hunger rather than a bunch of players who probably feel like, because some are coasting, Bhoycie. Some of the players at Celtic are coasting week in, week out. And that does settle into your performances. There's games where you probably see that midfield in particular who will have 0 bearing in the match whatsoever. Maeda will get a wee spark, a wee moment, and you'll maybe win 2-3-0. Defense can be the same, but they don't really do much now and again, and they're coasting, Bhoycie. And I think there's too many players that are just past that freshness. That they're getting towards the staleness at the club. You know what I mean? They're getting. I think Celtic have rinsed every bit of juice out of their squad that they can, boys. I think there's some time left in McGregor. Hopefully some time left in maybe Maeda and a couple of other players. But the majority of that team that was starting their day there, I think they've ran their race. They've shown their hunger. It's time to move on. And you need fresh legs. You know what I mean? And that team that won 5-1 at Pittodrie, okay, Aberdeen are shite. We all know that. It's probably the worst Aberdeen team we've seen in a long time. And they'll think it's a brilliant season, but it actually wasn't. But the team that we put at the park, they don't go to Pittodrie and win 5-1. That was just a team that was just, they just clicked. They were all hungry. They were all wanting it. You'd a defence that was maybe a couple of players that you would only see in League Cup matches and Scottish Cup matches. They were getting a start at Pittodrie. They all played well. I also felt like Kenny came on and he brought something different. You know what I mean? Yang played really well at Pittodrie. Yang still that, even after 60 games for Celtic, Yang still has that bit where he's still trying to impress. I don't think he's got the ability to impress quite a lot of
He's
time.
fucking awful in that final again.
I know.
That experiment's done for me.
You know what I mean? I said before, boys, I said before when in 50 games, I said, if you're still trying to find a player after 50 games at Celtic, then you won't find that player, boys. It's a long time not to find that run of games, and I think he's rotten, boys. I know some folk think he's good. I think he's rotten. But it just shows you, we had this under Lennon's COVID season. The performance levels, I know it's a different kettle of fish, but the performance levels were dropping that badly that any spark of life, like Turnbull, Sorrow at times, was looking like the new era for the club, you know what I mean? And I think you're finding that with, like, when you go to Yang, who's fifth choice under an Ange, and you've got you call him Kenny, who was out in loan in Ireland. When these guys are getting proper game time at Celtic, there's something wrong. And it just goes to show you that when these guys are coming on and Celtic are looking fresher and more hungrier, then there must be the kind of like.
Is it job done those stuff as well, though, mate?
I think it was done in November, and I think what kept Celtic going was the Champions League.
I agree.
And I also feel like the Celtic players talk, boys. Either told us all yesterday. They're human beings. They must have went like that on February the 1st. Is that what they both think of us? We've got them to a playoff in the Champions League. They've sold our star striker, and they even tried to kick on this season. They players must have went like that. Oh, the club's down tools. You know what I mean? Maybe we have or not. Our season's finished, and that I think that the players that does seep in. I think the players had been gone since maybe November, knowing that the Champions League was probably going to be their get up for the games. That's where get up for the games. And after the January window, and we had the game against Bayern Munich and the low start, there was nothing left to play for, nothing left to prove. Just get the season finished. And for some, it's keeping fit for your big move.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of what you're saying that's really, really true there about the players' reaction to the January window, because I think like a manager, but these are managers. I know Rodgers isn't a great example because of his injury that he got when he was young, but managers tend to be former players, right? So somewhere in their foundations mentally, when it comes to this sport, they're all going to be very, very similar in their attitude, and that's going to be: you do well in this at this club, you get rewarded. Manager ticks all his KPIs. His KPIs in terms of winning the league, and making a better fist. I bet it was just make a better fist of Europe than they did last year, and everyone will back off. He did more than that. He got us in the last 24, and to be honest with you, he took a last-minute goal for Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich away. I mean, people, if you gave me this season on paper, I'd have took it at the start.
100%.
If you'd said League Cup, and you make the halfway house between the latter stage of the Champions League and not, but it's a last-minute goal by Bayern that'll prevent you, I'd have said, fucking hell, over 2 legs with Bayern. Not bad at all. And I think
one chalked off against Bayern Munich at home. That's right. If either doesn't move, Celtic are through. And then I might be wrong here. They scored 3 goals against Celtic Two were in injury time, and one was a minute after the break. So
Yeah,
that's just concentration levels, boys. That's not ability.
yeah,
That's concentration
yeah.
levels. You know what I mean?
But it's small
It just
margins. I
shows
think
you.
that
That's what I'm
no,
saying.
you're
The
right,
small
and you're right
margins.
to highlight that. You're right to highlight that. You know, and it's avoidable. It's preventable. But by the time we get to the Bayern point, if you told me we're going to be in that sort of fixture in that contest, we'll sell Kyogo and we'll not replace him, I'd have said, "Oh, fuck off." That can't be
Mhm.
part of the season you've just described. Because Son will go off the rails here.
Aye.
Did you get me? I was like, Son will go off the rails. And of course, by the end of it, it was the Scottish Cup. Is that because we sold Kyogo? Probably not. Just that individually. But I think it's hard to argue, mate. It's hard to fucking argue that Celtic didn't act like a big club, that were a club in the last 24 of the Champions League and were privileged and taking it seriously. We look like a club that were in the last 24 of the Champions League against Bayern and didn't give us a rat's, what's the saying?
A rat's ass, rat's tail, something like that.
Didn't give a rat's ass. Didn't give a rat's
But does
ass.
anybody else? Does any other
Didn't
club
give
enjoy
us
selling
a
players?
cat's chance in hell
Cat's
of
chance.
getting past them. I think
Well, I
that's.
think the
I
club
might have
didn't.
made that up. What?
I think the club didn't give them a chance either.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The club didn't give them a. That's what.
Oh,
The
sorry, I
club
thought you
didn't
meant
give them.
nobody.
No, the
Well,
club didn't give them a chance in hell, mate, of getting through that. Therefore, didn't back them. Therefore, that then breeds as well, by the way, a sort of inferiority complex.
well, the manager must have been. I mean, the manager's attitude and the manager will be speaking to the players as well. You know what I mean? And there's no doubt in my mind the manager was expecting a better response to what he got. You know what I mean? It's quite interesting that Rodgers never references Lawwell or Nicholson. He only ever references Desmond when he's talking about
Which is good.
contracts, and I think that is good for us. The less
Right, it's a
data
good
you
thing.
have, the less data you have today with Celtic, the absolutely better. But I still think there's a wee kind of underlying message there where if he has to go above the CEO and
Yeah.
whatever Lawwell is and just talk to the owner, that tells me there's no exactly a happy marriage there, Bhoycie. And maybe they're to blame for a lot of the kind of misgivings when it comes to transfer. What's going on? What's what I'm laughing for? What's going on?
They're laughing at me just not knowing that sentence, mate. The
Oh,
rat's chance, the cat's chance.
Cats. You know,
I'll take
when
on
you
the
say it
chin,
online, it's hard to take it back. And no, but I think
I
it's
wanted
not.
I wanted to go into the thing was with the ownership and Rodgers, because if
Yeah.
Brendan's to stay, I think you're absolutely right. I think it'd be a Desmond production yet again. Where do you stand on this, Mark? Because I'll put my, what do they call it?
Colours to the mast.
Why can't I think of it like how to talk today?
You
I
put your
don't know.
chickens in the pen. Sorry, just make it up. Who cares? It's the end of the season anyway. Who can't care?
I'm gonna get all my cats in a row.
Aye.
And I think, to be honest with you, when I look at the Rodgers situation, I think it takes another fuck off phone. Another
Who's texting you?
Sorry, but I know.
I don't care. I'm just jealous. I'm not going to be texting me.
Turn it off. Turn your phone off. That's the second time it's went off. Roy Keane. But yeah, I think for me personally, I look at it and I go, it'll take another intervention like Desmond actually appointing Rodgers both occasions. I think it'll take that for him to do another new deal. I'm not there, mate, that he's going to sign. I think we're entering his final season at Celtic. I'll happily say that right now. The new deal stuff would have happened by now. I think Rodgers has looked at it and went, do you know what? Yes, we eventually got an £11 million player and a £9 million player. The £9 million player is the player I identified to you fucking months ago. He was 5 million then, or 6 million max. This is going to come back to me, by the way, so I look like the dafty. But I've actually now got the guy I wanted missing pre-season, Arnie Ingles. How long was he linked for? 6 weeks? 6 weeks before we got him? £11 million. Yes, I want you to spend £11 million. We only did it when she banked the Matt O'Reilly money. You didn't back me. You didn't back me when I said, because I knew you were going to sell him, by the way. I told you to go out and spend £11 million of the Champions League money that I've earned you by winning the league title in my first season. I've made you that money. So he sees all the same fucking traits of these cunts, mate. And sorry, that was bad language. He sees all the same traits. And I just feel, from my point of view, Rodgers will, he's been quite clever that throughout his time, Mark, if you've noticed, he always said, I said I'd be here for 3 years, a 200%. A 100% will be, I think he corrected it with something that said, 200% will be here for 3 years, not at Celtic for the long term. Where did you stand on it? Did you see him staying beyond this contract? Or did you maybe agree if he were to, it would take a sensational intervention from Dermot Desmond? Oh, and I think Mark is gone. Anyway, that's fine. What do you guys think in the chat? Unless it's my connection that's gone. I don't think it is, though. I think I'm still here. But Mark has been struggling with his connection, so I'll just remove him now. I'll keep having a wee look. I'll see if he'll cross it off. But aye, let me know in the chat if you think that Brendan Rodgers will be here beyond the initial deal that he took at Celtic, because I just get the feeling that he doesn't want to make the same mistake as last time. He doesn't want it to look like he's he doesn't want it to look like he's going to bail early. What he wants to do is he's wanting to honour the original deal that he signed, so he can get back, essentially, I think, in the good books. That's just what I think. I think he wants to leave Celtic saying, do you know what? I'm not the guy that you had me painted as. I'm actually, I'm a decent person. There he comes, the judge. I'm just adding you now. You there, mate?
Sorry about that, mate. Sorry about
Don't
that.
worry about it, man. Don't worry. There was a few connections just before we started. It's all good.
It's weird, isn't it?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're a wee bit blurry, but do you know what? We can hear you loud and clear, and that's the most important thing, because that is what we love, is your opinions, mate, as much as we love your clean kitchen in the background. To not see it once, it makes a nice, refreshing change and makes me feel better about mine. Talk to me, Mark, about whether you think Brendan is going to be at Celtic beyond his 3-year deal or not.
Well, I hope he is. I'll get that out in the open straight away. I'm no convinced, Bhoycie. I think the same problems that he encountered before, he's encountering again, and I think he's maybe, I don't know. I think if he's not signed dating by the end of the summer, I think it spells a disaster for Celtic. And for me, it's one of the key appointments this summer. As well as any other contract, any other signings, you got to get Rodgers tied in, and I'm not entirely sure that he's guaranteed he's got to be here next year, season 3. And he's here for day 1, he'll do 3 seasons. And I think if he does 3 seasons, his legacy's okay. He's come back. He's righted a few wrongs. You know what I mean? He's won some trophies. Hopefully wins another treble or double, and leaves with his head held high. So that's the way he'll see it, Bhoycie. Like he's protected his legacy, and he's kind of like put a few demons to bed or whatever it is. And I'm just making up sayings and honor demons to bed. I don't know, but he's no. I think there's a conversation to be had with him and Dermot. The thing for me is, if he does sign something, I think there might be more to what Celtic's season and what we know. You know, there might be further plans for Celtic, you know, that we don't know about, because I think Rodgers might seek some more clarification on what happens next. Because right now he's made £5 million on Bernabei, which was money that was lost, and replaced him with a guy on loan, a dud for Crystal Palace. He sees that, boy, saying it's pissing me and you off. That'll piss him off if he never get anybody to replace him. It'll piss him off if he never got either Kyogo replaced, that he never got O'Reilly replaced, because O'Reilly's still not been replaced. I don't think Engels or Bernardo fit that bill, neither does McGowan.
See this quickly on O'Reilly as well. I'd love to jump in here, just to not to be rude. I'll tell you why. Because see, the thing is with the O'Reilly one that really fucks me up, and I was saying earlier about the fact that obviously 11 million for Engels was only commissioned once they knew they knew they were getting 30 for O'Reilly. What the fuck would they get for Matt O'Reilly before Brendan Rodgers?
Aye.
Money back.
Aye.
5 million. 5 million, mate.
Brendan
Rodgers,
anyway.
way under 10, mate. Trust me. A guy who's on the bench for a retired Australian player. Like, fuck off. And that's all on the board as well, by the way. You commissioned that free transfer in Moy because you thought it all made sense. And Ange Postecoglou ripped the piss at your player trading model. Your player player trading model was you get guys like Matt O'Reilly, you develop them, you put them on for profit. He sacrificed that to get a pal fit for the World Cup. End of story. And by the way, had he had his way, it wouldn't have been Matt O'Reilly. It'd be another Aussie dud that had joined in the shape of Riley McGree. Just to get it off my chest. Right? Just remember that, right? So
I say the same at the time, mate. I say the
the
exact
Matt
same.
O'Reilly thing is a Brendan Rodgers production. He became a £30 million player in one season. And by the way, I think it was the biggest difference in us winning and not winning that league, because it was quite nip and tuck, if we all remember, 14 months ago. It was, and I think Matt O'Reilly's goals, when you actually look at his goal contributions from midfield, were a huge contributing factor. If not, as I say, I think probably the largest at that Celtic team. He must have had 30 to 40 goal contributions from midfield. His most productive season by a country mile, and one that warranted us charging £30 million to Brighton for his services. See, to have that thrown in your face, mate, really fucks me off. I've just turned your £1.5 million guy into 30. I want to get a guy in for 11 million and get him pre-season with me, because guess what? If I could do it, £1.5 million player, I make £11 million guys, £40 million players.
Oh, you see
the
that?
evidence is there. It's just rude.
He said that. Remember, he mentioned it earlier. He said, "Well, what happens is we want to go to the next level, buy the £10 million players and get 40 maybe." Rodgers is saying this out loud, and he's speaking to not just us, he's speaking to the board as well, and he's saying these things. And he's speaking to the board when he says things like, I'm wanting 3 and 4 first-team players. You remember his first window or his second window? The day before, the day of the window closed, and he said, I'm wanting 3 in today. And he ended up getting nobody. Remember? He wasn't talking to me and you when he was saying that. He was talking to the people behind the scenes who were dragging their heels, you know what I mean? And these wee comments, and as we just spoke about there, this is the shit he had before. The difference is he's said it already that he knows the landscape now. He's ready for this happening to him. He's willing just to play it out. And these things, okay, they've worked out okay for Celtic. We've won titles and doubles and the rest of it. But did it give Rodgers the hunger to sign another contract? This is what worries me, mate. You know what I mean? Like, because he'll know what another 2-3 years of selling the next big player and bringing in a pure utter fanny. And it's just very, very quickly. Take me 1 minute to finish my sentence here, right? You'll get Kieran Tierney replacing Kieran Tierney. The 5th choice keeper under Ange, now going to be the 3rd choice keeper. They've still not replaced, what do you call him, Johnson or Ralston, and they're no desire to. The centre back's an utter disgrace. That's a shambles they set up. You've got Carter Vickers and you've got nobody really. Just square pegs, round holes, players playing beyond themselves, getting away with it. Midfield, I think, is a pure mismatch. I don't know what number Engels is supposed to be. Bernardo's turned into a turn-up. McGowan looks decent 1 week and just unfitting the next week. Our wingers are gone for a player who played under Tony Mowbray for Celtic. That's how long ago. You're talking bloody James Forrest getting minutes and playing well, don't get me wrong, but looking like a spark at 34-year-old. He's looking like a spark. You've got Yang, who was 5th, 6th choice, getting a lot of game time. Our best striker is our best winger. You've got Jota's replacement being Jota because it made the Kyogo deal easy. And they just do not replace anybody. There's no forward thinking. There's no forward planning. It's reactive. Sometimes it doesn't even be reactive. And Ange probably is just as Rodgers is probably just as pissed off as the rest is. And if you put all that, and that's your working environment, and that's your reputation at stake, would you jump your hoops to sign a new contract, Bhoycie? I'm not totally sure that you do.
I hear you, mate. No, I hear you on that. I think you've picked some great superlatives to use there to describe that situation. A lot of them are factual. I mean, a lot of them are factual. I mean, I'd happily replace Kieran Tierney with Kieran Tierney. I think what the point
of course,
is there. The point is, where the fuck was the replacement the last 5 years?
Greg Taylor, but we also like Greg Taylor. I mean, the punk talk especially. I think he goes a bit too far, but he's funny with it. But Greg Taylor, he saw off every player that we brought in. Not because Greg Taylor is.
But he's made to be left centre back worse.
It's because he is fucking. He's far better than the utter dross recruitment that we've put in.
Tell it to the left centre halves though.
Sorry?
Every left centre half that comes in looks like a dumpling.
Right. And
he's got to take responsibility for that. A wee bit of the responsibility. That is my humble opinion on Taylor. I think Taylor invents. He didn't invent. Ange gave him this green light to this new position he'd never heard of in his life, and he just decided that's all I can do now. I basically like playing attacking midfielder. I'm in the deco role half the time. Greg Taylor's a pair of white boots away for believing his own hype. So I'm not.
And a hairband. I think he was.
I thought he was going to get a hairband. I think he was close, mate.
He was going to get it.
He bottled it, eh? He bottled
it for his wedding photos, didn't he? He went, I take my haircut for that.
I think he heard us. Because we called him, we were like, he's fucking grown a hairband. I think he's shot it.
He was a midfielder as a youth player. So maybe there was something in that.
Fuck off.
No, he was. He's
not a good one, was he? He ended up left back at Kilmarnock, mate.
I know. But look at I think Iron was the opposite. I think he was a midfielder then back to centre back, if I remember right. So you get players.
I bet you he's linked to us this summer.
Well, funnily enough, there was. I'm not going to mention the pod. You might have been on it before, back in the day. We're having a debate yesterday. I don't know that I watched that. Trust me, I've got more things to do. Like sit on broken glass. But what we're saying was the headline was, would Ayer improve this team? I don't think Ayer improved the Ayer team in 2019. He was rotten. He was the turn up. He used to just run forward, run out ideas and pass the ball at the park. And then
he's one of those players, a big virtue signaler as well. He loves
remember that time? That's what made him. He made a slide tackle. He made a challenge to save the goal against Rangers in a game. He had a shocker in, actually. I remember it well. And he had a pin badge next week after that holiday made, and that was him, a cult hero. I thought he was just the picture of the COVID season for me. He was rotten, absolute fucking rotten.
He tackles the wrong foot too.
Aye, and then
side tackles to do a hook, like a hook sort of tackle. You would get your left foot round to get it out, and you used to always go with his right and kind of like try to like someone's going to come off your back heel then. And I always thought that looks awkward, mate.
He used to always spin and all. Like the ball would get his head, he would kind of like run backwards and then spin. And he used to do this.
He doesn't get a game now, does he?
Oh, if he does, it must be for a very, very, very poor level of football team. You know what I mean?
He's still at Brentford, I'm sure. He's still Premier League.
Oh, you're joking me, man.
I'm sure he's still there.
Is he? Well, he can't be getting a game for them. Well, I don't know where they're sitting in the league now, but he was. I thought he was rotten. Right? That's just. Probably folk think he's brilliant. Some of them come on and say he's brilliant in a minute. That's up to them.
Well, that's the way it is. But talking of Angie's names came up quite a lot. What do you make of the Europa League win, Mark? Because, I mean, I know people say, well, in fact, the bus says don't back down, double down. I will not back down. He had the audacity to say after he won it, and, you know, you could be happy for him if you want. Yeah, well done, mate. This is the guy with 22 league defeats at Spurs. The first Premier League team in the history of it since 1992 to have 22 league defeats and not be relegated.
Wow.
With a top six club. It's a top six club he took over. See any Celtic fan that says, it's the wrong club, Spurs the way. Shut up. How can you be talking about it being a Spurs problem? He's spent there £350 million since he took over. Let me just say again, 350 million. He finished with 38 points, I think it was, in the league. Under 40 points. 40 points used to be the holy grail for the usual relegation threatened sides. Like, I mean, back there, like Coventry, Southampton, Everton back in the day when they had Walter Smith in charge. It was always 40 points was the holy grail. He didn't even manage that with a top six club. But he did enter another competition, the Europa League, and he did what he did at Celtic. He prioritised. He likes his name to be on trophies. And he admitted in an interview that from January onwards, our focus was the Europa League. Really? So since January, I think he played, I'm going to guess, 8 games in said Europa League. 8, maybe 10 max. He focused a Premier League club. He focused their future on him, on Ange Postecoglou FC winning a tournament. And I've used that term many a time. It was a tournament they started as favourites for, and no wonder with 350 million spent in the squad. Obviously, you can't juggle that sort of investment of squad between a few competitions. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. How could you do that? And then after it says, I'm proud of the way my team play football. And like I say, it's a win. It's always, expecting to win. Jose Mourinho that night would have watched that Europa League final and went, hush my mouth. That's the most defensive side I've ever seen in my life. And they're against, what they're up against? Harry Maguire up front. Fullbacks being wingers, centre-backs being strikers, and he camped in. He went against all his principles. So see all the reason people tell you they love him on Celtic Twitter and all that. They tell you they love him because he's never, read his book, he never goes back on his word. He's a man of his principles. He says what he means what he says. Does he fuck? He wants his name on trophies at the expense of the club he's at, just like he did with us against Bodo Glimt. Oh, remember that? Remember Bodo Glimt, ladies and gentlemen, when we put out reserves because he got humbled 2-0 at home, knew that Knutson had his number, so he just went, fuck it, all my eggs in the league. If I win the league, I'm still a hero. He's naughty that way. And he did the same with Spurs. What's your take on it, Mark? But I think this guy is found out, and I'm almost going to guarantee you this, I'll say it, he will be sacked still before the start of the new season. He'll be gone.
Well, careful, because that's the next Celtic manager you're talking about. He's going to be at Celtic Park after next
would
season.
Beg for him back. Why do people want him back? That's crazy.
He's going to get he's going to be in the shivers at Hampden. He's going to get the job. Just remember that. To be honest with you, I've said since the minute I left Celtic, I hope he gets fucked. And I've said it on this pod. I've said it online. Pre the final, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be rooting for him because, first of all, I hate Man U with a passion. You know what I mean? Hate them. But not just that. I thought, it'll be good for Celtic, because he was getting slagged at every direction. I went, you know what? Fuck it. Let's hope he does it. You know what I mean? Let's hope he does it and shuts them all up. Because he was getting slagged off utter dumplings on TalkSport like that. Jamie O'Hara. This guy's hardly played football at a high level enough to be criticising modern football. And I thought, I hope he did, Ange. And then I watched it. By the way, it was the worst football I've ever seen in my life. By the way, two rotten Scottish Championship teams. That's what it looked like.
And you know what? They're both teams that Rangers played. Rangers
drew
Spurs. Funnily enough, Ange couldn't even beat Rangers at fucking Ibrox.
And then Rangers should have got a point at Old Trafford, I know. Yeah. And you talk about a team whose own manager said it was the worst ever team the club's ever had. Remember that? It was the manager for
Amarim said that, Ruben Amarim.
I didn't know
tell you what, we played Villa, and the levels between Villa and that Spurs Man U is unbelievable, the difference, sir. Well, because I liked what I seen with Villa. See, when we went 2-0 behind, and I loved the fact we got it back to 2-2. Am I right? He'd have got a double. And then it went 4-2. They just ran away with it because of quality. I don't mind that, mate. I thought Celtic actually made a good account of themselves. Celtic played like that type of performance that they did Villa, they'd have won that final 3-0.
Oh, so
honestly.
Rangers would have won it, obviously. Rangers, if that was Rangers' cup final team.
They played them, mate. They had their chance.
They'd have smashed them. And I think the Villa game, I think they gave away a goal to each. I think somebody done a bad back pass. I think it was McGregor, and then they just tapped it in. And then we lost a goal in the 94th minute because a defender tried to take the ball in a striker. But that's how close we were. But that was a rotten final. I was just going to say that. But then Ange went against his principles. That was a defensive. It's a bit like, He
claimed it was his own style. He said this is my style that always wins. That's a fraud, mate, because that's then lying.
I'm not got an issue with it, to be honest with you. But I think if you do it more often for the benefit of the team, I'm not got an issue with it. But let's not pretend that that's all you do. You know what I mean? You've got to. In fact,
he could have done it against Leverkusen away.
Aye, he could have done it.
We were 2-1 up. 2-1 up. Last 10 minutes, we get beat 3-2.
Or Real Betis, 2-0 up against Real Betis and managed to somehow lose that game. I think we scored 3 goals that night and still get beat. No, I mean, we can label this all we want, but me and you both, for a long, long time, even when Ange was here, said, look, don't buy into his piss. In fact, I watched, and I burst out laughing. The following day, it showed you him talking to the players' wives. Oh, this is the best family unit I've ever worked with. the best group of players I've ever worked with. This club is something special. I went, change the badge on your fucking suit jacket. You said the exact same things to us. Did you see that clip, Bhoycie? No?
I didn't see that one. I didn't
It
see
was
that.
vomiting juice, and it
It
was sitting in front of the players' wives. He's going, that's what I say to you all. These are the best people I've ever worked with. It's the best, most
when will
family
folks
I've
start
ever.
seeing through? He's an absolute charlatan in terms
He
of what
is.
he says.
He's a salesman, boys. He's a salesman. For day
And
one,
see,
I said it for day one. He's a salesman.
that record in the English Premier League, no one can defend.
No.
No one.
No.
No one.
I'm not.
He has been
about it.
unbelievably shit down there because he stuck to his guns. And see the fact he changed it to win a final. All the principles, that's why we like him apparently. The amazing football Celtic kind of played at times. All this, he sacrificed it all in that final. And then the audacity to after it say, you know, I believe my style of winning, and yeah, no, it's done it again. He's talking like, I'm like,
Well, he made it about him.
bastard.
He made it about him. He made it about him.
I wouldn't want that circus
No,
back, mate. I'll be
but-
honest. I would not want that circus back.
When he said, I won my second season, that's fine. And he said it all the time, and that's showed a lot of boys to say that. But see, eventually, he made that about him. He didn't make it about the team or the club. For his own sanity or his own whatever credit he's got in England, it was all about him. And don't get me wrong. Listen, see if Celtic had to play Sevilla again, and O'Neill took off Larson and Sutton and played a 5-5-0 and won the match 1-0. I'd have took that all day long, boys. But that's not your point. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's your point. I'm not saying that's your point. I'm just saying I've not got a problem with that.
I get you.
But you can't have it both ways. You can't be kidding on that I don't shift, I don't budge. I mean, anybody that's listened to the Husband Lions talk will tell you that Jock's team apologised to the players after the semi-final game when we won in Europe. They said, I'm sorry, we're going to have to play the second leg, we're going to have to play defensive. It's not your style. But I want to get through this tie. And he apologised and said to the players, we will never ever play that way again. Because the previous year we went to an away tie for a semi-final and get beat because we went all guns.
So you learned from it. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I don't like that. I do like that. I'm saying
it should. Yeah, I want to win as well.
It didn't adapt for Celtic.
It's the pig-headedness, mate. The pig-headedness, though, to say to a customer base or a fan base, in the case Spurs, we've just watched 22 games. You didn't give a fuck, mate, about just making sure you got the job done. Otherwise, you would have. But anyway, we'll move on for it because I could
move on. Sorry, I don't have to start talking.
Why they love him? Why there's this loving for him? I think I'll never understand. I think he's overhyped, overrated, and I don't think the facts.
That's just us, but Bhoycie, it's Celtic are like the ex-bird who still goes through your garbage at night to see what you're eating. We don't let anybody go. We look at all players. We don't want players not to go and forget about us. And we retweet a statement that somebody said, "Oh, I love the Celtic fans. I played there 10 years ago." We just want to be loved. You know what I mean? And I think we should just move on for it. Or seeing a player goes,
we want to be loved. You're so right, mate. You're so right.
Some of it is actually quite embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, such and such said this about us. And do you know what? I don't give. Even the club's doing it. Modric went and left Madrid the other day. I think Celtic posted a quote Modric said about Celtic Park. I'm like, Celtic, why are you getting involved? Don't. This is where we.
I didn't hear that.
No,
I didn't even hear that tonight.
This is when we turn into Bonnie Rig Rose. We pretend we're this massive club, which we are, but we bring ourselves down to like gutter standards when we start doing shit like that. You know what I mean? And even though there was some, I had to Google the guy. And my brother, I thought our players were a Celtic tracksuit. Celtic are posting it on their page, and you're going, "What is this?"
I feel sick. I didn't know that about Modric.
As we've seen, he says something like. He said, "Oh, what I find the Celtic fans for last night, it was a pleasure playing at Celtic Park." Something along the lines. Blah blah blah. You've seen it a million times, right? Celtic posted that the day he left Madrid, as if
I believe you, mate. I believe you.
No, I know you do because that's a shit we do. I mean, look at last night, boys. You may have missed it, right? But last night, about 8 o'clock, Celtic, the big reveal, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, Celts. Well, he picture there, a trainer. The big reveal. A pair of trainers at Celtic have started. The windows opened. Celtic fans are anticipating new contracts for Maeda, maybe a new contract for the
You
manager,
guys.
and they unveil a pair of trainers that Adidas designed in the 1980s, 70s even. You know what I
They
mean?
just change the colour. The
change the
suede on
colour.
the front's now bright green,
And
which is
and
the
it
worst look
says
I've ever seen.
Celtic
How
on
many
it.
pairs have you bought, by the way, just incidentally, Mark?
Oh mate, I just been rebelling.
The viewers want to know. You're wearing a pair now, you bastard, I bet.
I'm in my slippers, mate. as the fourth wall collapsed there.
You're in
No,
the new shirt.
I go to the elite
That
one.
looks nice.
No.
What do you think?
Well, my brother went and got the normal one, and it's totally different, I must say. So
What one did you get? Is that the
I go
player
to the elite
edition?
one. Elite one.
So what's
So
the differences?
So with the badge is kind of rubber
Uh-huh.
for a start. The shirt is got like, if you hold it up to the light, it's got wee circle patches on, like wee holes, like wee patches.
Yes.
And then the boat mate kind of like see the waistband. The waistband kind of goes like this rather than straight.
Do you mind if I ask how much it was for the elite
I
one?
don't know, 220. And then that's different colours.
How much?
120. So see here, that's dark green. The other
Yes.
one's black. And then that's dark green, the other one's black. And it's got a wee gold bit at the bottom. That bit at the bottom is gold. The other one's just, don't know, nothing. And it feels different.
So the normal edition
It's
fans
totally
are going to be
Bhoycie.
more
It's totally
affordable. It is actually black stripes.
It's black.
You
And that's
sure it's
dark
not
green.
that? And you've obviously done the comparison. That's
And my brother got one the same day. My brother wanted a long sleeve one, and they don't do a long sleeve one, the authentic yet. So he wanted, so he had to buy the other one. And don't get me wrong, it's
a lot of bloody money though, isn't it?
I know, fuck's sake. But
But it's interesting. No, it's interesting.
But
It's
so
interesting.
see, you put the two of them together. The two of them are really, really nice quality strips. Honestly, I will say that for once. But there's like 5-6 different things on it. Like the badge, as I say, it's rubber, like kind of rubber.
Is this the difference, Mark, of us being in the?
Aye.
Because obviously with the new Adidas merch
That's
deal,
it. You get the new ones.
you're now in the sort of elite group that means that they are going to pay more
It
attention.
means you can buy the real strips. So when you buy a Celtic strip, you buy a replica, an official replica. That's what it says on it. So now we can buy official taps, not top of it. So I think you can only do that for the elite clubs. You can't do it for like, I don't know, Aberdeen or fucking, I don't know, a wee shitey club like Rangers or something. You know what I mean? You can't
There
buy
you go.
them.
Mark is loaded. The first comment by Ryan T.
Aye, right. Fucking a wish.
Yeah, loaded, mate. No, Mark
Well,
spends his money on the club he loves. That's what it is.
Well, I've still got my Huddle Club discount, so I got £12 off it. So all 108 for me, actually. So when you buy the Huddle Club discount card for the kids, you get 10% off all your merchandise. So
There
the
you
price
go.
itself straight away.
Interesting. Right, okay, we're going to move on because we've hit the hour nearly already. I hope everyone's enjoying the chat. We will stay for another 5 to 10 minutes if that's okay with you, Mark. There's
Easy
a new
peasy.
dawn. There's a new era, Ibrox. And I think I'd be a better Russell than him at the job. That could get clipped up. That could be all bollocks. I'll just get that in there so it ruins the clip. Russell Martin gets the job, mate. Now, obviously, we had a wee joke at the start of the show.
I was a belter.
Obviously, it's getting a lot of spoken about. It's spoken about on the sort of English, not English, predominantly English, but it's meant to be British airwaves. I like the Simon Jordan and Jim White show. I've said that for years. I've really enjoyed watching it. They've got interesting takes on this because obviously they are honed in on the English Premier League. And their last season, Russell Martin was very briefly an English Premier League manager. They're scathing in their assessment. Well, particularly Simon Jordan is scathing in their assessment of how he did there. You know, there's no point in going to a fight unless you win it. You know, there's no point putting up a good fight means you win the fight. You know, he didn't even try to change. He does not change his principles no matter what. I think Rangers kick off so difficult for them, mate, with the Champions League football. Champions League football is so imperative. They've got these qualifiers to navigate with a guy who's coming in with, yes, a real identity, but this unbelievable naivety by the new ownership that they've got, that this is a support base that will give time and credence and sort of respect to what it is they're maybe going to watch unfold over the next 2 to 3 years. It's utter nonsense. Stephen Johnston, thank you so much. Next one. He's giving you a member. Sorry, I detract. But I think these games, they need that money. This board aren't going to be putting, I don't think they're going to be like the old board wanting their money back. Essentially, this quick. You know what I mean? And going, you need to qualify for Champions League. They might be relaxed, but I don't think the fan base will, Matt. I don't think the fan base will. And I think it's a tricky road anyway, if I'm honest. I think it's a very tricky road, the Champions League route, when it's via qualifiers then a playoff round. And I think he'll struggle to navigate it, to be perfectly honest with you. I do think he'll struggle to navigate it. Now, that then puts you on the worst possible start. Is he already starting, though, from behind the place? Because the reaction to it is not just underwhelmed. I think the polite version is underwhelmed. The reaction is fury, rage, upset, anger. You sent me some interesting headlines today. The Kennedy incident one aside about the what a gentleman. But you said the real interesting bit from that press conference was Russell Martin. You didn't say this bit, but I'll add this in. Russell Martin accepting he knew he wasn't first choice for the job. He's never been first choice. Any job he's took. I don't know if you've seen that. Just admit
Very Ange.
I'm never first choice. I'm never first choice. He says, oh, yeah, but then he describes the clubs. It was MK Dons. It was Swansea City had financial problems. Wasn't first choice there either. And you're like, Jesus Christ, mate. You're not
Sharp.
your cause, man. But the other bit about it, of course, that's really interesting is the fact that the man with the money, or the man who's going to be in charge of the investment money, has basically said, whoa, 20 million quid. And like me and you have discussed before, he's touched on this in a sense of it will be spread between the playing staff and off field. I think people think this is a £20 million war chest that they were speaking of. That's far from the truth. That's been confirmed. Don't expect to see that in the headlines. Expect to see in the headlines Carradine telling the world that he poured a glass of water for Andrew Kavanagh, or whatever the fuck it was.
I'll try to find the exact quote there, but anyway, but basically what the guy said was, yeah, it's quite public now that there's £20 million investment through the share issue. That's going to be granted next week. And we're in discussions now with the owners or the people in charge to see what proportion of that money is going to be spent on players. And I say to you, Bhoycie, that's the thing that me and you would be discussing just now if it was a Celtic appointment. No, the glass of water, know how much a gentleman like the guy is. The fact that £20 million, which is nowhere near enough, is going to be chopped up and mashed up, and amongst probably, I don't know, new gym equipment, new things for the club, you know what I mean? And that's quite galling. Now, we all knew this was going to come to a stage where it was going to be quite sobering. We all knew Rangers weren't going to get £150 million to spend. Anybody with a brain knew that, right? But the Rangers fans haven't got brains, let's be honest, right? And they listen to everything that they're told. And they're getting told after Barry Ferguson.
So true, mate. You're so true.
And I said, and I don't blame them for thinking this way. I do not blame them because they've been told after everybody that is worth listening to that this is going to be a new era of heavy cash spending. And then the reality kicks in. With the very first press conference, they chose in the very first press conference to temper expectations. And the first thing they said was, we're going to bring in £20 million, through a share issue, LOL, which will be your stock, which will now give us more control of the club. And then the next day, they're telling us, it's going to be now a PLC, which means they've got new rights for when the AGM, they don't need to disclose information on voting things.
Yeah, totally, mate.
They're closing all the boys, you know what they're doing? They're closing every curtain and nobody can peek in. And
but there's one that they couldn't close, Marc.
What's that?
Who they announced as manager.
I know they couldn't. No, they couldn't.
And that is the one that's a great reveal. Because Russell Martin can kid on. He's had offers, and Chris Boyd, of course, because Chris Boyd's like your drunken uncle, even when he's sober, at a fucking a birthday party, right? He is that guy. He says on Sky Sports News when it was announced, fantastic appointment.
Aye.
I felt he's been offered to be by far bigger clubs to be a member of their staff. So he's not been offered managers' jobs at bigger clubs. Don't be fooled.
Well, the Sun says
He's been
that
offered jobs at clubs to be a coach. That's what happens when you're not regarded as a great
Ian
manager.
Cochran or something. Who's the guy at Hearts? The manager with a laptop. He ended up got to a big club as a
Capro.
coach. Carfro.
He's
Well,
back as a
maybe
manager somewhere, I think. Apparently he's doing good things somewhere.
seemingly he's real forward within football. He is. But this is the thing, like you mentioned, that you're spot on about the fact you kind of hide that. It's not out in the open. And maybe that spells for them what they don't want to hear. You know what I mean? The fact that you're expecting Mourinho with a straight face. Then he went to, Gerrard, aye. Then he went to, Ancelotti, the brains behind Real Madrid. Remember that last week? And then now it's turned into Russell Martin. And that is a bit of a forfeit. That is a wee bit. Personally, I think he might just be their version of Ange. Whether the thing is, with Ange Celtic, is Ange came in, they have to rewrite history because Celtic were a bit of a mess at the time, but they had a core of players that won trophies left, right, and centre. They haven't. He came into a club that's got money to burn. They haven't. And he came into at that point, he came into a fan base who were hurting, but were ready for a wee bit of rebuild. They've been told this is going to be 150 million players coming in. They're getting told it was Modric and that Modric, Ronaldo, and Henderson was going to be in their team next season. That's the stuff that was going to put Twitter. And I knew they found out it's a guy for Dundee, and the guy had on loans a player.
This is my point, mate. It's I think the manager was the one that was going to be playing sight as to where we're actually at here, guys. And that's the first reality check that they've had. The second one I think was so important when you sent me that. It was the 20 million on the playing staff, by the way. Well, I'll allocate as much as we can of the 20 million to the playing staff. You're going. Talk about leading clubs earlier and stuff. We've got, whether it's his last year or not, an elite manager in charge who will take this guy to school. This is a guy who died on his sword in the English Premier League, getting Southampton 4-0 down to still pass the goalkeeper to the centre back to the full back to the goalkeeper, back to the centre back. Wonder why he was conceding goals, religiously as a thing. He was principled beyond belief. Those principles don't work in this environment unless you have got the quality to do it. And judging by the budget that guy's then referred to, not even being 20 million, fuck me, this is a shit show.
They've lost some players, Bhoycie. They've lost Hadji, they've lost Cherny, who I think Cherny was actually...
He was decent, yeah, I thought he was
decent.
I
liked him, but I think if in another world, I think he makes Celtic a bit better, to be honest with you. I liked what he had, if I'm being honest with you.
He was direct. He was direct, and he had a bit of quality.
I thought Hadji was good enough. He's a bit hot and cold, Hadji.
He's hot and cold, mate. You hated him at Celtic, trust me. He would have been your dream mate to rant about at Celtic, trust me.
Probably true, mate. Probably true.
He would have been.
He gave them something, Bhoycie. He gave them something. I mean, and they loved him, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to get into their squad because I don't even know half of the players' name, but I'm just saying that they've lost a bit of something. That needs replenished no matter how you do it. It needs replenished. That costs money. And you know something? Money's one thing, but time's another. And if you get a manager, I think he'll do well, boys. I'm not going to lie because it's this.
Do you think he will do well?
I think
he'll do well?
I think he'll do well. I think if he's given the time.
But that's the big struggle, Mark.
But that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
sorry.
If he's given it, no, you're all right. No, I'm just saying, if he's given the time, boys, he'll do well. But do you get 3 years at Rangers? For 3 more years because they've had nothing for the last 12 years, boys. They've had nothing for the last 12 years. Apart from COVID, Celtic fans were...
Steven Gerrard, I think, dictated that, though. I think their investment was so big in Gerrard, and I think the clout that he brought the club, he got the benefit of the doubt, mate, way more.
Yeah, he did.
What Russell Martin, I was speaking to a season ticket holder at work today, Phil Arkall, right? He is staunch could get. But he's actually quite balanced when you talk to him about the football. But he goes, Bhoycie, the biggest problem is...
guy.
Yeah. Before we reform the day. But he was saying, today that he says the biggest problem I've got, Bhoycie, is no one's willing to give this guy a chance already. He says, so he's fucked. He said he's fucked.
That's a bad start.
He said,
It's
but
the last part.
he's open and honest about it, and he said he's fucked, Bhoycie. But I'll tell you why. He says I'm talking about 80% of folk I speak to already over the last 24 hours, 48 hours, and all the group chats. Nobody wants him there.
Is this there, Mowbray? Is this
Oh,
Mowbray?
that was exactly what I had in my head. And by the way, Mowbray was relegated 20th of the league with West Brom for
That's
a
right.
great brand of football.
That's
And we
right.
appointed him when really we should have went and got Owen Coyle at that point. Whether Owen Coyle would have been any better, but you hear all the
I
stories.
think he said no, didn't he? He
Owen
said
Coyle
no.
turned it down because he just got Burnley a promote.
Oh,
See,
that's
the thing?
embarrassing.
But I think Owen Coyle kind of regrets it a wee bit. But he at that time was hot. He was hot. Do you know what I mean? Mowbray was the one that was Mowbray the back of the fact that he was getting a lot of the credit for the League Cup win with Hibs. I remember John Collins obviously took over that team, but the team was established under Mowbray for 2 years in Scotland. Russell Martin's got a bit under 40% win rate at every club he's been at, and they're not clubs of note or relatable in the sense that the Hibs thing that I think really carried weight with us was we all liked Hibs when Mowbray was in charge of them. We all liked the football they played, and you thought, bring a bit of that. Yeah, it's a wee bit underwhelming what you've done in England, but we've got that relatable factor where we were watching you week in, week out, we were seeing what you were doing, and we thought, bring a bit of that to better players, and hey. And he was still getting a lot of plaudits down south. Russell Martin was, as I say, I'm only going by the TalkSport thing, but he was getting pandered, mate. The fact he refused to adapt. He refuses to, no matter what. He'll play that way, even 14 defeats at 16 or whatever his record was in the Premier League. Sound crazy bad. Like, I don't even know if he got a win. This for 16 games. Maybe one win. One win. I think it was sound crazy like that, mate.
What is that?
Someone will correct us in the chat. Like in the first 16 Premier League games, I think he did the first 16 or 14 or 16. I'm all over the place here. But I think he'd got maybe one win. Something like that. Phil, hopefully, he's watching and will correct me. But he refused to adapt, refused to change. This won't work, mate, if it's not going well. And as I say, if the knives are already sharpened and your first notable achievement at Rangers is failing Champions League.
But what I would say is, I don't know his win percentage and all the rest of that. It looks pretty bad. The only thing I would want to know is if I was a Rangers fan was he making players better? Because that's a start, boys. See if you oh fuck's sake. See if you can make players better. That's a really good start. You know what I mean? Like Ange made Greg Taylor better. He got a second lease of life out of some players at Celtic. That goes a long way. You know what I mean? And then you can build on that. So I would want to know if he does that. If I was going to
be a good coach,
is a good coach. That's
why he's one of these top jobs as a coach.
Maybe, but correct. And see all the clubs that you mentioned. With all due respect, it's no Rangers Football Club. You know what I mean? With the demands they've got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got a group of fans who are notorious. That main stand at Ibrox is notorious for getting the manager that's stinking. It's a hard. None of their managers ever turn round. They never turn their face to that main stand. They never see a Rangers manager turn round at that main stand because of the abuse they get. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes with it, Bhoycie. And like for me, like say, I think he will do well, or at least I think he can do well. But I don't know how long that lasts because does he get 3 years? I don't know. I don't know if he does get 3 years. It all depends on what Celtic does. If Celtic do well this summertime, he could be at the door very, very quickly. But I think this has been a wake-up call this last 72 hours for Rangers.
I think you're so right. Yep. You're spot on. It's a wake-up call, I think, because the two things, I was really glad that you flagged that one to me, Marc, about the budget thing. When you said, look, this is the headline they won't tell you about. He's actually quashing the fact it's even 20 million that'll be in the playing staff. That's huge. The fact it's Russell Martin and not Ancelotti's for Real Madrid. It's not Mourinho as initially it started with. It's not Steven Gerrard and all the fanfare that brings. It's Russell fucking Martin.
Sobering, boy, isn't it? It's very sobering.
I think so. The last thing I need is that, so I'm glad I'm a Celtic fan. Anyway, we'll call it there. This has been brilliant tonight. Really enjoyed the chat. Thanks everyone who's watching. The bus is going nowhere, as we were saying at the top of the show. And yes, we will be back sometime soon. Marc, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. Enjoyed this tonight. Thanks very much.
Guys, thanks.